Bloomberg Audio Studios.
Podcasts, radio, news.
This is Bloomberg Businessweek with Carol Massar and Tim Stenovec on Bloomberg Radio.
All right, so I don't know about you, but at certain points over the last couple of years, I know, Tim, I've thought about going to Greece. I was just talking to my daughter who's planning, she's overseas. That's on her list before she heads back home here to New York. And you open up your Instagram a lot and think about it.
Yeah, try not to open up my Instagram too much because, hashtag FOMO. But it does feel like at certain points of the year, everyone in my feed is either in Greece or Italy. Like, I don't know what's going on. Yeah. It's actually not our imagination here, Carol. More Americans are going to Greece. In November of 2023, tourist spending by U.S. travelers increased by 62.4% to more than 65 million euros.
All right, so there's a lot of folks. And Greece wants even more Americans to come and spend time and money in Greece. And that's why Olga Kefalogianni, the country's Minister of Tourism, is here in the United States. She joins us now here in our Bloomberg Interactive Broker studio. Olga, a pleasure to have you here. First up, why are you in New York?
Well, thank you very much for hosting me, and thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk about what we're trying to do in terms of tourism in Greece. Of course, the American market is a very important source market for Greek tourism, and 2023 was a record year for Greek tourism as a whole. But both in terms of arrivals, also in terms of revenue, and it was also a record year in terms of Americans arriving in Greece and spending in Greece.
Show us the pie, like how much in terms of tourists, how much are from America, how much are from elsewhere, maybe from the European continent or so?
Well, the majority of our visitors are from European countries, so we believe that there's a lot of room, for the increase from the American market. But up to a couple of years ago, we didn't even have a direct connection. So this was actually an impediment. So nowadays we have direct connections through New York, Boston, and Chicago. And this year, 2024, we'll be having even more connections. So I think direct flights are important.
So there were no direct flights?
There were direct flights, but they were not year-round.
Okay.
So they were very seasonal.
So what do you think when an American is making the choice about where to go on vacation, and they're choosing? Like they're in that stage where they're planning that trip, what prevents them from choosing Greece? Like, what's the barrier that they need to get over?
Well, first of all, I think that connectivity is very important. So we are very happy that nowadays there is more of a direct connection through a lot of airlines. But I think that an impediment, if this is the correct, let's say, word, would be that Greece is mostly associated with summer vacations. Mm-hmm. So Greece is always associated with the Greek islands, a beach vacation, sea and sun. And there is a lot more in Greece than just that. So what we are trying to do is extend the season and promote Greece as a year-round destination for Americans throughout the States, because it's not just the East Coast, it's also the West Coast and all the other parts of America.
Remind us about the weather in Greece, because it is true. Like when I'm thinking about when traveling, or I know my daughter, she was looking when we went and did some overseas traveling in December and talked about Greece, and I'm like, I think it's kind of cold there in December, but give us an idea. So as you make it year round, I mean, the weather is, supportive of doing what in December, or like give us an idea of how you're thinking about that year-round approach.
Well, when we're talking about the year-round approach, that means that of course you can have year-round beach vacation, but the weather is very moderate year-round, so you would have a very nice experience in the countryside, the mainland Greece, mountainous areas, and you can have some activities outdoors in the nature, like trekking, rafting. For anyone who's interested in gastronomy, of course, Greece is associated with really good food.
Check.
So I think that you would find like a Michelin star restaurants in Athens,
Greek
but also super cute and super nice tavernas in all parts of Greece.
We had an executive from a real estate firm based in Texas on a few weeks ago, and he's a New Yorker but moved to Texas to become the CEO of this job. And he's CEO of this company, and he told us, we're asking him what he missed about New York, and he was like, I can't get any good Greek food in Texas, like in the entire state. He's like, when I come to New York, the first thing I do is I go get some Greek food. Not, of course, saying it's anything close to what you'd find in Greece, but
but like even for us, when we are in a Greek island and we have the fish that is just like caught fresh fish, and it's just grilled fish. You don't really need to have a lot of seasoning or like very cooking in a very particular way. You just have like very, very good raw materials, and then you just have like olive oil, Greek olive oil, and it's like the best meal that you can have.
I'm sold. I want to talk a little bit about balance, though. Tourism is certainly important, but also maintaining historical significance, maintaining artifacts, and making sure that the place isn't overrun with tourists. How do you find that balance?
Well, it's actually the biggest challenge right now, and this is why I'm, as a minister, I'm always talking about, like the new era for Greek tourism, which takes local communities' needs into significance when it comes, to planning, because we see that, of course, tourism is a very big source of revenue for the local economy. It's also a very big generator of jobs. For Greece, tourism represents almost 20% of GDP, both in terms of direct and indirect contribution. So you see this is a very important economic activity. But at the same time, we see that there's a lot of pressure to the local communities. And of course, we really need to protect and preserve our natural environment, our cultural environment.
I mean, your blue economy, I have to say, I am obsessed. I'm a sailor, and my husband and I are obsessed with some of the YouTubers that sail the world, and they spend a lot of time in the Mediterranean, and certainly in your neighborhood and at your home. And that economy, in terms of supporting fishermen, the ocean economy, the blue economy, is so important. So just to, kind of push a little bit more on what Tim was asking about, like that economy, you want to make sure that doesn't come undone by a mass move of tourists into the area that maybe it can occur. Because I see it in areas around the world as a diver, like just whether it's cruising or cruise ships or just overdevelopment that just really messes up the ocean economy and then impacts a country or an area.
I couldn't agree with you more. This is why our strategy is focused on sustainability, and we take sustainability when it comes to the marine environment very, very seriously. This is why we just founded this observatory for maritime and coastal tourism in the Mediterranean region. So we did this in collaboration with the UN World Tourism Organization. So Greece, let's say, will be in the forefront of preserving the coastal and the maritime environment in the Mediterranean, because of course it's very important for all insular nations and coastal nations to preserve the marine environment. So in this respect, of course, we are reviewing our strategy when it comes, let's say, to cruise ships.
Oh, interesting.
I know that...
Might you guys push back a little bit?
I know that it's of big interest into the American market. But, at the same time, we cannot be having so many cruise ships, so many large cruise ships in Greece. So we are thinking of, applying some quota and having a more strict berth allocation system. So I think we should find, as you said before, the correct balance. So we need the revenue, but at the same time, we need to preserve what makes us really unique and authentic and attractive, as a destination.
30 seconds, and then we're going to do some news and we're going to come back. But what is specifically about the cruise operators do you find that you need to push back on?
Well, you see that especially in some of the very, very popular islands, such as Mykonos and Santorini, it becomes very frustrating even for visitors who are on the island and also for the islanders. So we really need to find the right balance. And of course, I understand, that there are people who really enjoy cruising, but then again, you need to have everything in proportion, let's say. Like Greece is a smaller country, so we need to have, proportionate and balanced approach to things.
Carol Massar and Tim Stenovec here, and the two of us are really just planning our next adventure.
We've been Googling left and right.
Yeah,
Olga's been putting up with our Googling of like all things Greece.
Yeah, we're going to Greece. And the reason we're talking about Greece is because we have with us right now the country's Minister of Tourism, Olga Kefalogianni. She joins us here in the Bloomberg Interactive Brokers studio. So Olga, we're looking at all the different places we could go in Greece. We're already excited to plan our trip. Want to talk about costs. You're here in New York. You were telling us while we were doing news that it's shockingly expensive to be here in New York.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can say that.
Yeah, of
on
course.
air.
Say whatever
You
you
can
want,
say
please.
whatever you want.
Yeah.
Like really,
This won't be news to anyone.
Is it everything?
I used
or-
to live here
Yeah.
20 years ago, so it's not like I haven't been used to like New York being quite expensive compared to other places. But I think that nowadays it's like super expensive,
Everything? Are you talking about hotels, food, everything?
especially food. I mean,
Yeah.
compared to the prices that you would have in Athens. So for the prices that you would pay here for a relatively mediocre restaurant,
Yeah, plenty of those.
you would have the same, let's say, price in a Michelin star restaurant in
Wow.
Athens. So you understand that the quality that you pay is not comparable.
What about lodging when it comes to paying for a hotel? What's the range?
Well, the good thing is that there's a very big offering. So I think that depending on your budget, you can find,
Right.
something that's equivalent, to what you want to spend.
How do you, as Minister of Tourism, think about a company like Airbnb? Because it's pretty controversial. There are some folks in governments who don't like it because they think that it displaces housing for people who live in areas and drives up the price of housing. How are you thinking about it?
Well, it's true that it's it's a challenge nowadays. Finding again the word is the right balance, because of course we understand that there are a lot of people who would only look into this kind of accommodation, that they wouldn't go to a hotel, so
Right.
they would look for short-term rentals for their vacation. So as a country that appeals to a lot of people, you of course need to have all sorts of so the whole range of the offering when it comes
Right.
to accommodation, so both hotels and also the short-term rentals. Well, at the same time, if you do not have a framework, then of course this creates a lot of I would say social issues, especially when it comes to prices for locals, so for accommodation for locals. I'm also a member of parliament, so I represent Athens, and we see that in the recent years some very nice neighborhoods that used to be like full of younger people are now younger Greek people are now no longer residential areas, because they're very near the Acropolis. So it was, it made much more sense for people to just rent their apartments for visitors through these platforms, Airbnb and other platforms for short-term rentals. So nowadays we have a stricter framework, and really we try to have a very balanced approach, because again, we understand that this is something that appeals to a lot of visitors,
Right.
but at the same time, we also need to have both the revenue, the correct revenue, and also, we don't need to have like the unfair competition to hotels, which, have to go under a lot of scrutiny when it comes, to the Ministry of Tourism's controls and legal frameworks for the way that they operate.
Olga, I want to go back to what your mission is to really expand tourism. Summer, check, you got it down. There's lots of people who come in, but you'd like to expand it throughout the year. And what's interesting is your prime minister was on with our TV colleagues in the fall, and specifically he made the point that, part of the reason that you guys can expand potentially your tourist season is because of climate change, right? That it's impacting a little bit the environment. So that's kind of an unforeseen, I don't want to say benefit, but right, because of what's happening, or you're just seeing warming right throughout the year.
Well, the climate crisis, I think, is an issue for everyone to address, in a very, very strict manner. So I understand that there's a silver lining for everything, but I think that the most important thing is to really address the impact of the climate crisis, and really for every country to do whatever they can to reverse the effects that we see in the environment.
Right.
And I think that this is important for us, and it's important for our children and the future generations. So I think that all of us have a very big responsibility when it comes to the environment and the climate. Greece has a very strict, legislative process right now when it comes to the environment and environmental protection, and we have a plan for having all our hotels sustainable by 2030.
Right.
So this is the most important thing for us, that we see the climate crisis as an obligation for all of us to do something differently.
Right.
And I think that this is also something that our visitors are considering when they make their bookings, because the carbon footprint and what your traveling would do to the environment is also something that is of consideration to a lot of people nowadays.
Right.
So I think that we have to do our part of the responsibility.
But the reality, but I guess what I'm just saying, like the reality of not pointing fingers. I mean, the reality of, we talk to vineyards all the time, right? And maybe they're shifting where they're growing because climate change has just made a reality of you can't grow here anymore. And the same thing, for you guys or for any country, right? They're looking at, okay, it's warmer. What does that mean potentially that we maybe have a longer growing season or a longer tourist season, right? I mean, it's just kind of the reality of it, unfortunately.
Yes, I understand. But but on the other hand, we really, especially politicians, we really have to be very firm when it comes, to what we really have to do in order to reverse these very negative results to the environment. So this is why I really feel that I have to make this point. And also as a minister, I have to make sure that especially tourism is really sustainable. But when we're talking about extending the season, we're not talking only about the weather and the fact that it's moderate year round. It's also that you can have these amazing experiences in Greece year round. And actually for me, I would say that especially for people who are interested in culture, it's much better to enjoy all these amazing sites, like 2,500-year-old sites outside the summer season. Because
I love
why would you go there,
travel.
when it's 45 degrees Celsius, and not go when it's much nicer? And then you can also enjoy the wineries. You can also enjoy all sorts of other activities in Greece, especially also for some people who are interested in skiing. You have to know that there are ski resorts in Greece. We are upgrading the ski facilities right now.
So good to know.
And I'm from Crete, and in Crete you could have you could ski but off piste, okay, and then you can go to the ocean.
We have to run. Olga Kefalogianni, she is the Minister of Tourism in Greece, joining us here in studio.